Who replaced them in those positions?
Excellent qualified personnel to lead the mission of arresting 23,000 violent criminals this year alone. That's twice as many as before.
Who took the places of
I'm not going to give you any names so you can attack them.
Why not?
This is unprecedented. An FBI director refusing to give the names of his top leadership to a Senate committee on live television. Watch how this explosive showdown between Kash Patel and Senator Mazie Hirono completely exposes the brutal civil war taking place inside our nation's premier law enforcement agency. Let's break down exactly how this went off the rails.
Just like the rest of the federal government, there have been significant personnel changes at the FBI since President Trump took office. I want to better understand the scope of the turnover and the changes occurring at the FBI. Since January 2025, how many FBI employees have retired, resigned, been fired, or otherwise separated from employment? I need a number.
We'll get you a number.
What is the number? You don't have it?
Not off the top of my head, and I want to get you the right number.
Would it surprise you to know that it's probably in the thousands, like 5,000?
I don't think that number's accurate.
You don't know. Next question. How many special agents or analysts have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Say, we will get you the numbers, and anyone that retires is of their own volition, and anyone that is terminated at the FBI, as I've said before, is done so because they have failed to meet the standards and uphold their loyalty and oath to the Constitution.
Yeah, so you say. Next question. How many executive assistant directors, or special agents in charge have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Again, people leaving on their own accord or terminations were done by the standards set at the FBI that have been carried out
With this
consistently.
question, I'm getting to the leadership of the FBI, and you don't have that answer. Next question. Which field office, division, or directorate has lost the most personnel since January 2025? And do you have the answer to that question?
Yeah, actually, every single field office in the country, including Hawaii, has received a plus-up of FBI agents because we're pushing them out to the field.
Okay, so you're telling me that no field office, division, or directorate has lost any personnel since January 20th, 2025. That's your answer?
In Hawaii, there's been a plus-up. In every single state that I'm looking at, we have allocated a plus-up for field offices across the country so that the FBI can continue the historic achievements it's done in these last 7 months. When you're talking about firings, you're looking for a media hit and a fundraising clip, and I'm not going to give it to you.
Look at how Hirono attempts to trap Patel by demanding a specific, raw number on mass firings and early retirements. She estimates thousands of agents have been purged. Patel weaponizes a brilliant counter-defense. He refuses to give her a specific number on the spot, accusing her of hunting for a fundraising clip and a media hit. Instead of playing defense, he pivots to a positive metric, claiming he is actually plussing up local field offices across the country.
And yet the executive assistant directors in charge of the FBI's national security and intelligence branches were both forced out at the beginning of the year. Who replaced them in those positions?
Excellent qualified personnel to lead the mission of arresting 23,000 violent criminals this year alone. That's twice as many as before.
Who took the places of
I'm not going to give you any names so you can attack them.
Why not?
So you can attack them. I'm not doing that. The
You're not
people
gonna
sitting
give
in
me the
those seats are
names of-
extremely qualified to handle the job.
You're
We
not
would
gonna
not
give
have
me
the
the names
results.
of personnel who
We would
should
not
be
have the
on your-
reduction
Right,
of
fine,
violence in the
moving
state
on.
of Hawaii if we did not allocate the
Earlier
resources we
this
did.
year, FBI counterterrorist special agents and investigators were reassigned to assist with immigration enforcement. Reportedly, these counterterrorism experts were returned to the jobs they trained for in late January after Iran threatened to retaliate for our strikes on their nuclear facilities. Have those experts remained in the jobs they trained for since that time? Yes or no?
FBI agents' primary responsibility is exactly what they are assigned to do. We always work with our
So since they
interagency
return
part.
to their positions,
If you're not
are
going to
they
let me
still in
answer,
those
why don't you
positions?
just do your soliloquy in the 4.5 minutes you have
I am
left?
not asking for a soliloquy. It's just a yes or no. Are those people who are returned to their jobs still on those jobs? Yes or no?
They never left.
What was that?
They never left their primary job. It is a surge of resources in law enforcement working with the interagency to combat violent crime and reduce
They were
violent
never-
crime in
okay, they were never
historic
reassigned to do immigration.
proportions.
That's your testimony. Okay, Director Patel, the FBI is also the lead federal agency for investigating cyber attacks and
Yes.
cyber intrusions, both by foreign nation states and by non-state hacker groups. Since President Trump's inauguration, the executive assistant director in charge of the criminal and cyber branch and the head of the FBI's cyber division have both left the FBI. What are the names of the people who replace them in those positions?
The cyber branch is one of the most impressive at the FBI. 409 arrests this year, 169 convictions. That's a 42% increase from the same time last year.
It's that
So
branch,
any
Mr.
suggestion that
Patel.
the FBI cyber division is not operating at full capacity and better than ever before, the leadership at the branch is implementing these changes necessary to attack the cyber and ransomware infrastructure operators
You know
from
why
Iran, China,
they're
and Russia.
important? I want to know who has those positions, since the people who originally were there.
Supremely
are no longer
qualified
there.
individuals have those positions.
are they?
Supremely qualified individuals.
Who are they? What are the names?
You're not
You
getting
don't
them.
know.
This is the most stunning part of the entire hearing. When Hirono asks for the literal names of the new directors leading the national security, cyber, and intelligence branches, Patel completely stonewalls her. His logic? He claims he won't give out names because the committee will just use them for public character assassination. For a video creator, watch the body language here. Patel is operating not as a traditional defensive bureaucrat, but as an aggressive political counterpuncher, daring the committee to press further.
You know, you've been asked some questions about changes to your hiring standard, and including college degrees and possibly the age. But, you know, one question I had is, that you are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences. Are you requiring these kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring a physical program at BFTC at Quantico because FBI agents carrying guns in the field have to chase down bad guys and do really hard work. The physical fitness standards of those agents
So
are
are
being
you requiring
appropriately
these
assessed.
kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring everybody to pass the 1811 standards at BFTC. If you want to chase down a bad guy
Excuse me,
and put
the
him in
reason I
handcuffs, you
ask-
better be able to do a pull-up.
The reason I ask is that there are concerns about whether or not being able to do these kinds of harsh pull-ups is really required of FBI agents.
Doing
Anyway,
one pull-up.
Now the hearing takes a bizarre turn into physical fitness metrics. Hirono challenges Patel's new rule requiring applicants to perform strict pull-ups at the Quantico Training Academy, arguing that physiological differences disadvantage female applicants. Patel leans hard into basic populist logic here, stating that if you're carrying a gun and chasing bad guys in the field, you need to be able to do at least one pull-up. He frames her objection as the establishment trying to lower critical law enforcement standards for political correctness. Now let's dive into a comprehensive critical review of this extraordinary hearing, because what we are looking at in late 2025 is a complete, fundamental breakdown of the historical relationship between the legislative branch and federal intelligence agencies. From an institutionalist perspective, Mazie Hirono's line of questioning highlights a deeply terrifying trend for the administrative state. The FBI has historically prided itself on being an insular, specialized, and deeply experienced entity tasked with complex counterespionage, international cyber defense, and anti-terrorism missions. When Hirono points out that the heads of the cyber division and national security branches have been removed or reassigned to basic immigration enforcement on the southern border, she is raising an incredibly valid structural alarm. She is arguing that the Trump administration is effectively dismantling the specialized multi-decade expertise of the Bureau and turning it into a localized, politically driven police force. Her closing attack, that Patel's sole qualification is absolute loyalty to the president, is the core argument of the anti-Trump establishment, who believe the Justice Department is being systematically weaponized. But to truly understand why this clip went viral, we have to look objectively at Kash Patel's counter-strategy, because he represents a completely new breed of federal director. In the past, an FBI director under fire would sit politely, apologize for lacking data, and promise to follow up in writing. Patel completely rejects that submissive playbook. He treats the Senate committee not as an oversight body to be respected, but as a hostile political opponent to be defeated. By withholding the names of his new leadership team, Patel executed a highly calculated maneuver. He knew that if he dropped those names, the mainstream media would immediately dissect their pasts, creating an endless cycle of negative headlines. By flatly saying "you are not getting them," he shifted the entire focus of the news cycle away from his personnel changes and onto his own combativeness. And his defense regarding the physical fitness standards was a masterclass in populist optics. By reducing a complex debate over federal hiring practices down to a simple common-sense binary, if you want to put a bad guy in handcuffs, you better be able to do a pull-up, he instantly won the public relations war with his base. He made Hirono's elitist, policy-heavy arguments look completely disconnected from the gritty physical reality of actual law enforcement work. When we look at the current reality of the FBI, Patel's institutional shock therapy has left the Bureau completely unrecognizable. He successfully pushed through a massive $500 million budget cut, forced out thousands of legacy agents from a Hoover building, and redirected thousands more to frontline immigration operations. Traditionalists warn that this has left the United States drastically vulnerable to sophisticated foreign cyber attacks from state actors like China and Iran. But Patel's defenders point directly to his metrics: a historic spike in violent crime arrests and rapid, aggressive responses to domestic threats. Ultimately, this 11-minute clip represents the death of the old Washington consensus. The FBI is no longer an untouchable, independent agency operating above the political fray. It is now the central battleground of a massive ideological war over who controls the raw enforcement power of the United States government. I want to know where you stand on this. Was Mazie Hirono justified in demanding accountability for a collapsing, specialized agency, or did Kash Patel prove that the FBI desperately needed an aggressive outsider to clear out the institutional rot? Drop your comments below, hit that like button, subscribe for more raw political breakdowns, and I will see you in the very next video.